Hey guys, I'm Tane from the Action Point. We've brought a very special guest onto the channel today, Digl Dixon, to provide commentary alongside Sam on their finals match at the Calling in Auckland. Digl will also be uploading a rematch between the two decks on his channel soon, so be sure to check that out. Without further ado, let's get into the commentary.
Okay, I think we're live.
That looks good. Yeah, let's do it.
First of all, before we get into this, the official shout out has to go to the M&R podcast.
Yeah.
We lost the recording, so Twitch auto expires them after 2 weeks. I want to say it's 2 weeks, but it's definitely been 4, right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. So, shout out to the M&R podcast for recording this. I've gone and cheekily taken a version off Patreon. So, Sam and I can commentate over the top of this and let you know what on earth went on in this game.
Sounds good.
Before we start, we're sitting down to play this game. How are you feeling?
Yeah, well, I've just come off the back of 2 exceedingly long Oldhim matches, and Dash against Oldhim is a very tight match. Like, you need to play perfectly, and that's another reason, I'm really quite upset that the recordings were gone, because I really wanted to look over my Dennis Sang match, because that match I played super tight. I genuinely don't think there were any, real mistakes in there, and I'd like to do some commentary on that as well, but as far as we know, that recording's not anywhere. But I was just super knackered. They were trying to stay ahead on time because of there was obviously a really long judge call in the middle of the tournament that pushed time a little bit back. And they needed to keep things going. So after my match, they were like, all right, you've got 5 to 10 minutes before you need to play the final. So I'm just like, all right, chill, calm down, run outside, get some fresh air, run back in. And then we were on.
Yeah. Yeah, are you feeling the pressure of the stream?
I mean, I was the last game, and now I'm just like, I've gotten over the stream, sort of pressure, because the last, I think I'd only had 3 games on stream before my Dennis Sang match, and every single time I lost.
Oh.
So I'm like, oh, what's going on? The stream's cursed. But I just put that out of my mind for the Zhang match, and now I'm back at it again with the final. So I'm like, gotten over it now. I'm feeling comfortable, feeling confident.
Nice. Yeah, and I felt the same. Honestly, after you won that match, after my game against Dave, I went for a little walk, had a decaffeinated coffee. In hindsight, that probably should have been caffeinated. Chilled out, and I was just like, my mates were watching the stream as you and Dennis were playing. What a nail biter of a game! Holy smokes, just absolutely down to the wire. Dennis is an absolute madman as well. Yeah. Gave you a run for your money there.
Yeah, no, that was super tight game.
Yeah.
Apparently he was watching my pitch stack and was like, all right, he's got 3 items in hand. I'll throw this Thunderquake. He can only block 3 of it. And it turns out I only had 2 items in hand, so I could block 6 and live on 1. And he was like, oh, I miscalculated it. And I wasn't sure exactly what happened because I'm not that good at pitch stacking. But apparently it was like, had I drawn my next card instead of one I'd drawn previously, because the next card on top of my deck was an item, he would have got it. So it was just like, oh my God, someone's that smart.
That's insane. I watched him battle Matt Rogers at the New Zealand Nats in the top 8, and the depth that the Oldhim mirror has when you have 2 really high skill players, and the way that they're kind of pitch stacking against each other is just like,
yeah,
I don't know. I just play Lexi and use Remembrance, so I don't have to worry about that.
But yeah, I play Spark of Genius. Shuffles my deck.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to gently throw you under the bus here. Do you look at your opponent's pitch stack?
No.
Okay. Do you think about what you're pitch stacking?
A little. I generally have a good idea of where my velocities are in a fatigue scenario, a good idea of where my octanes are and where my Teklo cores are for searching them out with Spark of Genius, and where all my zero cost boosts are. And in a fatigue scenario, knowing where they are is really good so that you can resolve velocity to close out the game. But in terms of where exactly stuff is, I'm like, it's somewhere there. It'll show up.
Yeah.
And it usually is fine. And I never place too much store in it. But sometimes I'm like, I could know that he pitched Pummel on this turn of the game, so he doesn't have it. Or I could know, oh, he pitched Pummel on this turn of the game, therefore he has it this turn, or something like that. But I haven't reached that level yet.
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying and kind of exciting that there is still that like next jump up.
Yeah.
To go. And it's like not a small jump. You can't gradually start to memorize your opponent's pit stack. It's like you're doing it or you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty insane. It just goes to show this game's like incredible, and there's still further heights to climb for any player.
I mean, I guess heroes like Dash and Lexi, you're not playing for the second cycle so much, and if you do sacrifice too much of your tempo to go for a second cycle, then maybe it wasn't even worth trying to get there. So
yeah, exactly.
Very much first cycle decks.
Yeah, and that's the thing with also like in the control version of Dash, when you're playing against Oldhim, your aim is simply just to pitch blues, which is what you're doing anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not even like a problem because your aim is to get to a late game where your deck is entirely blue, and that's what you do anyway. Like it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we get into it?
We shall.
Sweet, good firm handshake. I'm gonna pull straight off the bat. This was a really funny game to start. Most of the games that I played at the Calling, sat down in front of my opponent, we shuffled some cards, we decided who was going to go first. We had a little bit of back and forth. You'd just come back from your little walk outside. I'd just come back from having a sleep in the stairs, waiting for the game. And like everyone was crowded around the table because they wanted to watch. And so we just sat down and got to it. Like I remember the first time I really like properly looked you in the face was when I shook your hand at the end of the game.
Right.
So yeah, this was just a very sort of a blur of a start to a game for me.
Yeah.
It's like, who is this guy? I didn't get my poker read on you. Not that I do that. If I'm not pitch decking, I'm not reading someone's poker face.
So you're going first here, and you were higher in the Swiss, so you chose that. Was that correct? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I chose to go first. I'm keen to hear your thoughts on it. What would you have chosen?
I would have chosen second.
Oh, great. Well, hey, this was just a beautiful... everyone got what they wanted.
Yeah.
I went first because in the Swiss, I played against Dave, who beat me on Dash. And he went first and got a turn 0 pounder off of a spark. And it was just horrific. It was really hard to come back from having 12 damage on the board from turn 0.
The reason I choose second is because it's first off, it's very tempo-based game. Like, you need a really good reason to choose first over second. And there are a multitude of reasons to choose first over second in both of our decks. I mean, you see one just right here with Weave Ice giving Dominate. It's probably not what you're aiming for. Like, I can't expect you to have gone, oh, I'm going to draw Weave Ice, therefore I'm going to go first. But it is a thing that can happen. You can also double Arsenal going first. But the other thing is you can also Arsenal or double Arsenal going second, right?
Kind of. This is a very common, I don't want to say misconception. You can use Voltaire and you can Arsenal. You can't do it twice because you'll Arsenal 2 arrows and they won't have go again. So
I gathered that it doesn't functionally work to do both.
Honestly, even one is tough because as soon as your opponent says pass priority and you say, oh, use Voltaire, you pitch a card, you slam an arrow down, and then they're like, right, and they start attacking you. So especially at the higher tables, it's really greedy to try and Voltaire something. Only if they've absolutely lost their action point. So if you played an item or something, then it's safe to do it.
And that's what I'm going to bring it to, right? Is say I play an item. What that means is you now have free reign to load an arrow. So in going first, if I play an item, you have essentially arsenaled the exact same as I. So I've given up the first turn of the game to play an item, which is strong. but you're giving up one whole turn for an item which is worth 6 damage, and your average turn is going to be more than 6 damage. So the way I see it is that me going first will mean that if I draw an item, you've also got an arsenal. Therefore, even if I get an item, going first isn't correct. The other thing I often do when going first is I overpitch into pistol just to cycle my hand into something that I want and then arsenal a card. But against you, if I'm going first and I overpitch into pistol, then I've like kind of ripped all the cards away from my hand, and then you're sort of given free reign to load. So it becomes very difficult for me to do that, even when you do that. Whereas when I'm going second, I immediately rip tempo. I usually, because Lexi usually doesn't want to block, correct?
Oh no, yeah, no, please no.
Yeah, because then I rip tempo, and usually I can push like 14 damage, take you to 26, and then arsenal a card still, which is super strong. And if I can bring the game to a state where I only need 3 really key turns to get you, that means you are going to need like back-to-back disruption in order to win. And so my goal here is essentially to ensure that you don't get that I just get all the damage I need, such that you're in a point where you're forced to block and your disruptive turns won't mean as much. So yeah, that's why I choose second, but it can go either way depending on what you do, what I do to counter you. So it really just depends.
Yeah, honestly, I totally agree with you. I think I'll be going second from now.
Glad you think so. But yeah, this Levi's coming through dealing. I mean, we'll see what happens, but dealing damage on turn 0 is pretty strong.
We'll play it out. I mean, I mentioned in my deck tech, and there'll be a link in someone's description, that I think Weavice is a really bad card to play first cycle, and I'm kind of ignoring my own rule here on this turn. And
right.
It's not immediately obvious, but it'll come in to bite me next turn.
All right.
So I think that first turn for me was already a massive mistake.
Okay.
I've lost a red eye spoon for, very little. I mean, sure. I mean, I get 4 damage.
Yeah, that is true.
And I think that's cute. I think I just played against an Oldham recently, and they just like dominated something off the bat, and I was pissed off, and I wanted to do my Oldham impression. I saw the Weavice first turn, and I was like, "Hey, this is fun! I can dominate."
It's my turn now. I get to do the cool thing.
Exactly. Oldham's a strong hero, right? I should try to be more like Oldham.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I got 4 damage, but that's it. And I gave up one of my best controlling arrows, and I gave up a double arsenal.
Yeah.
More importantly, my arsenal right now is pretty much a dead card. Weavice is bad. Like, it's going to give you a frostbite, and then maybe it's going to give one of my arrows +1.
Right.
Only on the elemental arrows. So yeah, this looks like I've got a card in arsenal, but really this is like half a card. This is pretty bad.
Interesting, because I mean, I don't play Lexi, but when I see that, I'm like, okay, you can flip that up. That's nice. You can play it. That's a +3. That feels like value. And then you might also get dominate.
It's a blue one, so it's just +1.
Just +1. Interesting. Yeah.
So you might get +1 if you got an elemental arrow, and you might get dominate if you've used it.
So you have in fact given up your card to Arsenal as well, because you haven't double arsenaled on your turn 0.
Correct. Yeah, that's it. So the alternate line would be to use Voltaire, slot the Ice Vein in, and then to slide the Weavice next to it.
Yeah.
Which is a much stronger turn 2, because flip Weavice, play Weavice, and then you've got a dominated Chilling Ice Vein that is going to happen that turn.
That is very strong. Okay, I see it. I see it.
Yeah. So I got a bit greedy with the 4 damage. I mean, it was fun. Wouldn't do it again.
Yeah. Good to know.
Right.
If I recall correctly, what I have here is a high octane, 2 combustible couriers, and a blue.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've done here is I've pitched the blue, played one of the combustible couriers, boosting, and if you watch any of my other games, you'll know that Goliath Gauntlet is almost entirely there to make the breakpoint on Courier pretty bad.
Yeah.
So had I used it now, it would have come in for 8 because it's 4 base plus 2 from Pounder plus 2 from Goliath, which takes 3 cards or 2 cards plus purchase, however you want to look at it. I chose not to use the Goliath here, which if you knew me as a player, that might tip you off as to what's in my hand, to the fact that I can't boost another time on this combat chain to get that +3.
Oh.
Yeah. So here I'm trying to bait 2 cards from your hand and then shoot pistol, Arsenal the Octane, just keep another Courier in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So here I'm trying to detect what you're going to do, what your turn's looking like, and just trying to get cards from your hand, essentially. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Next time we play Sam, I'll know. No Goliath Gauntlet. Yeah, I mean, I think my hand here is 4 reds, so I'm like, I just snap dump it.
Yeah.
I'm playing a little bit fast and loose right now because I'm absolutely toasted. I'm so tired. But yeah, I'm happy to just block this one out.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh no, hey, there's an icy encounter. Okay, so I had something, but apparently it wasn't good enough to keep. What was my 4th card here? I think it's an endless arrow. Yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah, I mean, I talk about this a little bit in my deck tech. I'm happy to block out every now and then if I don't have a good turn. Going even on that turn cycle is pretty fine for me.
Yeah.
And now we have this turn.
This is the turn. I was thinking it's a dichotomy. It is you block and you win, or it's you don't block and you lose. Like that was what was going on in my head. It was that clear cut for me, and I'm just like, does he know? Does he think that he can respond back with better stuff on his turn? If so, great.
Yeah, cool. And so, like, you think you're going to lose if I block out because you're going to get fatigued? You're going to run out of damage? Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it can go either way depending on how stuff lines up. I only run 2 velocity in this matchup because it's difficult to use when there's ice coming through. Actually, no, that's a lie. I do run 3, but it's never my aim to use it in this matchup because it's so difficult to use with all the ice coming through. So I usually just snap block with it as soon as I see it. But if it does line up that I can use it, I'll go for it 100%.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah, you want to be resolving a max velo if you can. But yeah, if I'm giving you, what do you need for that? 4 cards and an arsenal?
Yeah, 4 cards and an arsenal.
If I'm giving you that, then something's gone very wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, I don't choose to block it. I think on this for a long time.
Yeah.
So in my hand is 2. What have I got? I've certainly got a 3 of a kind.
Yeah.
A Pulse of Vault Haven, which doesn't block, and 2 arrows. So the way I can block this out is Perch Gatherers and 2 arrows, which leads me to a blind tunic into 3 of a kind. So, like, that's my entire turn.
Yeah.
Or I give it 2 arrows and the 3 of a kind, and you just hit me for the rest of the turn.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, neither of the arrows are disruptive arrows. I think one's a hamstring shot, but I really need an Ice Vein or a Blizzard Bolt to force you to put cards down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it through, and I was like, I really tunnel visioned on ripping a fuse arrow off the top.
I do that sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I'll draw a blue off this Octane. My turn will be great. And then I don't. And I'm like, oh, I can shoot pistol once at the end of this turn. That's a normal turn.
Yeah, so that was what I was looking for. And at the time, I thought it was more likely than not. Turns out my game 14 maths aren't super sharp. I think it was a little under 50% that I had a fuse arrow. because I hadn't factored that I'd already fired an Ice Vein and I'd pitched a Blizzard Bolt.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I thought, I looked at my hand, and because I have the Pulse, it means my follow-up turn. So if I get a Fuse Arrow, I deal a little bit less damage back to you. I mean, you're going to deal 18 damage this turn, perhaps. I will certainly deal 14 back and just take tempo, completely take tempo. And with a Pulse, I can flip the Pulse, so you're having another huge turn. So all I could see, like my eyes lit up and I was like, look, if I just rip a Fuse Arrow off the top, I think I win the game on the spot. Yeah. And I was done with that. My brain went to that decision and I was like, I'm just going to draw a Fuse Arrow. That's going to be how I win this game. This is going to be fine.
Yeah.
I would be fascinated to see the parallel universe where I block out here.
I would be too. It would be insane.
We could, it's a bit of setup, but we could reset it up, but it's fine. Maybe
that would be interesting.
It would be super interesting. We both have to play 13 intense games of Flesh and Blood right before we do that, though, just to get this full. Sweet. So we see how this goes, and this is kind of, yeah, I've played through this in my head so many times. Being like, what would have happened if I blocked? And after the game, when you said that you were worried that I was going to fatigue you, I thought that was fascinating because I've never fatigued a dash before. They've generally like run low on cards, but I've always taken them to 0 first.
Yeah, and I agree. The chance of it is difficult, and the interesting thing about it is we both fatigue in this matchup. Like you can run out of arrows, and even if I've got no cards in deck, if you don't have enough damage to kill me, like that can be enough.
Yeah, you can always. I mean, do you have any chambers in this list?
Not sideboarded into Lexi.
Yeah, right.
I have done it in the past, and sometimes I do it because I feel like there's a better chance of using it sometimes. Usually I'm just like, I'll keep these velocities in because they block 3, whereas Chamber does not block 3 and can just ruin me on a turn.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's fair enough. But yeah, maybe it's something for me to experiment with in future, fatiguing dashes. I think perhaps if I just board in all of my cards that block and board out all of my cards that don't block, including Pulse of Valhaven, then maybe, maybe I'd have a good chance at it.
Yeah, but I have seen dashes start Chamber, and then at that point you just kind of lose. So,
kind of. You still have a lot of... Oh, so right, you just start Chamber, but you don't board in the defense reactions?
Yeah. So that's how I play against Icelander and Brute, stuff like that. So you can just do that, in which case I have a weapon that attacks for 4 every turn. You don't, therefore I win. So it's just kind of like, you can't really play for that, but it could happen.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that would bamboozle me a little bit, because normally when Dash is board in Chamber, or they flip Chamber, they're on the control plan, in which case you just give them Frostbites and hope that their defense reactions are really inefficient.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you just started boosting at me, I think it might take me a couple of turn cycles to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Very cool. Sweet. So we can see I just eat it. And this is exactly what you were talking about when you were saying, oh, my plan is to pretty much just hit you for 16 damage straight away, and then I've just got to have 2 more good turns and it's over.
Yeah.
So this is playing out pretty well for you.
It is.
Don't mean to be foreboding. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen this. Sweet. Here we go. Here's my huge pop-off turn.
Let's see it. King 3. And you now have 8 cards at your disposal.
Yeah, it's pretty overkill. So what you can do on these 3 of a kind turns is block out with like 1 or 2 of your arrows while they're attacking, because you're never going to use all 8 cards.
That's what I was thinking as well. And I'm just like, your turn is already above rate just because 3 of a kind's in it. Therefore, blocking, use 2 cards and Perchies to block 11 damage. That's pretty strong.
Yes, it's... Oh, so yeah. So you're right. You're totally right. You can get punished really hard for that if you don't draw a blue, or you don't draw an ice, like whatever component that you've blocked with. I've definitely had games before where you 3 of a kind, you find the arrow that you're looking for, but the other 2 are also reds. So having 2 red arrows that you can pitch to play the red arrow that means something is really important. And I didn't want to gamble 3 life, giving one of those cards away. I did that earlier on against, who was it against? I think that was against Dave as well. I learned a lot against Dave. Dave. Yeah, I blocked 2 aggressively with one of my cards, and then my 3 of a kind turn, I actually failed to fire a 3rd arrow, which is like, a huge no-no.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit, once bitten, twice shy from that. So I just, this is the ultimate greedy line. You can't skimp on this. You're insulating yourself against every possibility this goes wrong. But still, I mean, the chance wasn't that high that I hit a fuse arrow in hindsight, and so it went wrong. Didn't hit the fuse arrow, and I'm playing this Weave Ice, and as I mentioned, it's not going to do anything. It's literally just not even a card at this point.
Yeah, because it targets an elemental attack, correct?
Yeah, I saw elemental. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty face up. I'm sure you've played enough Lexi to figure out that Endless Arrow in Arsenal, Endless Arrow on the table, you don't need to block the Endless Arrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at this and I'm like, does this Weave Ice do anything? I don't think it does. But he did have to play it out, therefore maybe it just actually does nothing. It's just there. You just had to get rid of it. So I'm like, cool. And then as you said, you've got 2 endlesses. Doesn't matter if the first one hits, you've got another one. Just leave it.
Yep, that's precisely it. So the Weave Ice will pick up an elemental attack if one ends up coming across. But no, we never got an elemental, so I'm shocking pretty hard into this just to lock in as much damage as I can, but as soon as I do that, it's pretty obvious that there's not a lot going on here.
Yeah. Yeah, you do that, and I'm like, cool. This endless bounces back to your hand 3 times. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
At least we have Hamstring Shot here to save the day. Oh, so I think you can see what I drew there. Icy Encounter, Cold Snap, and a blue headshot. Obviously, not the disruption that I was looking for. I'm honored that you gave us the chess piece. Did the Hamstring Shot advocates need you to know that the Hamstring Shot actually made a difference here? Were you concerned about the text that it presented?
I'm trying to remember my thought process here. Remind me on the wording on Hamstring Shot. Is it whenever it hits or just when it hits?
When it hits, your next attack costs 1 more.
So it's you can't shock charm with it.
Correct.
Yeah. Essentially just the math lined up such that I think I blocked with a blue here that I wasn't going to make use of. And it was just a matter of either I pitch this blue for the 1 resource I need for the hamstring, or I use it to block 3 damage, provided I throw my chest at it as well. So it just became, okay, this is blocking 3 damage as well as doing whatever I need it to be. Therefore, I'll throw it at this.
Cool. That's great to hear. I always wonder with Hamstring Shot, did they actually care? Is 1 resource actually, going to disrupt your turn at all?
And it doesn't, right? Say you came through with a Blizzard Bolt and it was applying to 3 attacks. I just keep the blue here, take the 3 frostbites, and then that blue cancels out the 3 frostbites.
Yeah.
It was just the exact math of my hand was that if I took a frostbite, I would be pitching an additional card.
Yeah, precisely. Sweet. I mean, Endless Arrow is back. That's for sure. Look, I have 2 cards left in hand. I can't remember what these were. Because, normally I'll just dump everything into Shock Charmers just to free everything up. So maybe I want to keep these.
So you have 2 endlesses, do you?
There are definitely 2 endlesses, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I'm on snap blocks. I think this is an all red hand. So again, I'm just happy to not have to think about this turn. Just put my cards on the table and try again next turn. I know the life totals seem really slim for people who are watching and haven't seen this kind of match before. 20 to 25 going into the start of this turn. But I'm really solidly behind. Are you feeling like you're really solidly ahead?
In the tempo game, 100%. Like, it's just so long as I don't draw badly, or you don't draw the nuts, I take this out at this point. So I'm just like, don't mess up, and you'll be all right.
Yeah. I figure I've got one turn that I can try and pivot in.
Yeah.
So your pivots are looking like Channel Lake Frigid, 3 of a kind turns, and even trying to set up a big 6-card turn, which is what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
I choose to take the 2 damage from the pistol to set up this card in Arsenal. You get Frostbite. Oh, it wastes the Quicken. It's so sad when that happens. But you have to do it to slide the second card into Arsenal.
Yeah. I love the custom token. It's good.
Thank you. Yeah, I was using a legitimate Quicken Aura token, and when I got to top 8, I was like, no, people are going to pull me up because this isn't actually a Quicken token. Like, it doesn't stay on the field.
Yeah.
So I just quickly drew like what the effect does instead.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been with me ever since. Here it is. Probably can't see it.
That's nice. That's so good.
Sweet. I think you have a pretty off turn here, don't you?
I think this one's all right, and then the following turn's a bit meh.
The off turn. Oh yeah, cool. So I take both of these. I think this is me trying to pivot. I definitely know that. I remember I have my one pivot turn, and that's where you get me with the Pulse Wave Harpoon, and I'm just so sad. I think this is it.
Yeah.
Oh. I can't believe it. So normally I'm applying enough tempo to dash that this card doesn't have a huge impact, like chaining together 3, because 3 is kind of the limit for this card. 3 boost attacks to get the good effect doesn't happen because I'm applying so much disruption.
Yeah.
So I actually have to reread what the card does, because this happened to me once before. And yeah, I mean, any way you slice my hand, it kind of falls to pieces. So I give you an opportunity to make a mistake, and you don't. You absolutely don't.
Yeah. I sometimes have people, when I play this card, they just like throw their whole hand at me and was like, hey, choose which one. And I'm just like, no, you pick 3. Like, you can keep 1, and I choose from the 3 you showed me. And then just like, oh yeah, and then just quickly rewrite it.
Yeah. How much do you know about Lexi? Like, what was your thinking going into this decision?
My thinking was Chilling Ice Vein is the ender. Like, that card is the best card. It's what takes everything from me. Like, it's so much better than Blizzard Bolt because it takes the resources on your turn rather than mine. So it just becomes weird breakpoints of pitch that can carry across each turn, and you can mess with those breakpoints with Shock Charmers as well. So I really don't want to see that card at all. I do see you've shown me the Frostduck as well, which is like, okay, that's a blue and also a really significant on hit. So I'm considering getting rid of that as well, so that if you don't have a blue, your turn's also really bad. But the fact is that if I take the Chilling Ice Vein, your disruption is basically nil. Even if your damage is significantly higher, it's not enough to push me to lethal range. And at that point, I just swing a bunch back at you. You're at 9. It doesn't matter how much damage you've dealt to me.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. On the Frostlock, so you'll notice that the other card, if you rip the Ice Vein, even if the card I have in hand is an ice card, I won't be able to shoot the Frostlock. I don't have enough resources. So I have to hold 1 card to fuse it and 1 card to pitch for it. So it was correct to not choose the Frostlock. I think the Frostlock is proper nasty against you.
Yeah.
And it would have had the pulse as well. So that would be, 8 on hit. You can't really play your turn.
Yeah. Because a good proportion, I would say above a third of my deck is free. So 15 boosts. 15 boosts, 2 bios. Spark of Genius counts for this. So those 3, as well as your Teklo cores. So that brings it to 23 cards. So it's pretty rough when that stuff hits.
Yeah. But yeah, not possible to play it even if I'm holding the ice card, which I think I am. But yeah, you've managed to navigate that, and everything falls to pieces now.
Yeah, that was the aim. I was like, Ice Vein is just the key card that I do not want to see in this matchup. You play one turn 0, and I'm like, okay, I'm taking 4 damage, but 1 is gone, which is good.
Yeah.
So I just take another one, and then I spark on the end, which is an incredible play. Like,
devastating, really devastating.
Spark is the best card, like, in the deck, period.
Yeah.
Instant.
Yeah, and finding a tickler core here actually ruins what I'm going to try to do next turn, because I'm going to give you 2 frostbites, and tickler core is going to be like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I misplay here as well. It's been a game of misplays. I think every single turn I pointed out something that I can do wrong.
Rough.
So I have to play the pulse, and what I do here is I just slap the Blizzard Bolt that I have in Arsenal.
Yeah, without go again, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have go again because it came from Arsenal, and I knew this. I thought this was okay. But there were 2 other lines I could have run. One is, and you see I'm floating 2, so I want to shock it at least once. So here I figured I could give you 2 frostbites, hopefully that would do enough. Another line is you run out the drill shot first just to get some damage. Honestly, at this point in the game, it is 25 to 8. Damage is nothing. Damage does not matter. I just need to give you as many frostbites as I can.
Yeah, and I understand your reasoning here. Like, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the line though, so I fused with a red Arctic Incarceration. The line instead was to pay 2 into Perch Grapplers to give it go again. Then after I fused with the Arctic, I can play out the Arctic. That would have given you 4 frostbites instead of just the 2 that I can shock you to. I don't think, we'll see if it would have made a difference. And you can let me know if that would have changed your turn very much.
I think I see a Teklo Pounder in my hand still, with a blue. I might even have more blues. Like, the deck's full of blues. Like, it makes this one of, I would say, Lexi's worst aggro matchups. It's still very tight. But in terms of the difference it is between Fi and stuff like that, it's quite different.
Yeah. Fire's breakfast. Fire's great. Briar can be quite tough. I talk a lot about Briar in the videos that I've made so far. Maybe it's because Wellington is very Briar heavy, but yeah, Dash for sure. And losing that game to Dave earlier on in the tournament, and just edging him out in the semi-final, it's kind of made me really earn a lot of respect for Dash.
Yeah, it's good deck, fun deck.
Yeah. Okay. I give you 2 frostbites. That's 2 frostbites, 8 damage. It doesn't look that bad. And I Arsenal the Red Arctic. I'm planning on blocking out this entire turn, flipping and giving you 4 frostbites, and trying to hope for a better pivot off the tunic counter.
Pretty sure I've got Octane here or something.
Yeah, you just kept throwing gas on the table, eh? Yeah, so you have a Pounder. So 2 float, 4 frostbites wouldn't have changed much, yeah.
And then again, red boosted attack, solid. I've actually boosted off a velocity here, which is what I want to see, because I don't want to see that card in this matchup.
Yeah, nice. For everyone who's not Dash out there, can I ask you a cheeky question? What cards, if you banish them off the boost, what cards, when they get banished, changes your game plan? Like, what makes you quite vulnerable?
I mean, nothing really. Like, when I'm playing aggro, it's just like, you get what you get. Like, there's nothing you can really do about it. If you lose all your power cards, which is Octane and Velocity, you're just like, that sucks. And then you just throw your red boosted attacks and still do like 14 damage. And it's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. if an aggro deck's trying to fatigue you and you banish your velocities, it's like game over. You can't do anything.
Oh, true. See, that's what I'm meaning is if that was your third velocity, I mean, it's far too late for me to try and fatigue you.
Correct.
I guess you'd have to banish them really early on.
Yeah.
To make that kind of decision to pivot your game plan.
Yeah. It's not really something you can lay a lot of store into. But it's good to be aware of it, I would say. And into a lot of my aggro matchups, I start Pounder and have one chamber in deck to bring out purely in the case that they're trying to fatigue me.
Right.
And if they see that gets banished off, they can then go, oops, I should now fatigue this person because their like safety net per se is no longer in the deck. But also, that's like something that works specifically against me, not to dashers in general. And some people just don't have fatigue on their mind and are just like, I'm going to aggro you anyway. Like, that's what my deck likes to do. That's what the deck is fun doing. Like, why not just do that, right?
Yeah.
And my game plans can change in the future. I might decide I want no chambers and be like, this deck is capable of dealing enough damage to kill you just because of the amount of 2 blocks you have in your deck, which is often the case with your hands as well, which is why I decide generally not to have chamber in that matchup. But sometimes I might be like, I need to run 2 chamber because the chance of fatigue is higher. And that's what I do into Brute. I actually run 3 chamber, start chamber, and because they have Arg Smash, I'm constantly bringing in new chambers just to stop them trying to fatigue me because all their stuff blocks 3, and then they smash all your items when they get the chance. It's just gross matchup.
Yeah. Oh, funny. Yeah. I guess like Lexi and Phi, too many 2 blocks to even try to fatigue you whatsoever.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that's what I'm looking for right now. I'm like, have you banished anything meaningful?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, it's good to know that there's no like kryptonite that if that gets banished, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But it would have been cool for us to know about it.
Yeah, it is annoying when good stuff gets banished, but it's never really the end of the world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember in the chain meta, long may that not haunt us again. If they banished 2 copies of Art of War, you're so chuffed with life.
I remember trying to fatigue that deck as Prism, and I'm just like, Art of War's gone. Hallelujah.
That's it.
Like, that card is already pretty above rate into like any deck that goes wide. And then in chain it was like, oh, you also get an extra card because you banished it and you still play it. So
yeah, that's it. It's like draw 3 cards, all your stuff gets +1 for 1 resource. Pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yep, just blocking out here. As I mentioned, that Red Arctic and Arsenal. That's what I'm trying to do.
And when you do that, I'm kind of like, okay, he is at 6, but I do need to kill you before my deck's out.
Yeah, I mean, are you getting slim? I remember you flipped your deck over at the end, and there was still a fair bit of heat left.
Yeah, there was. And I'm not overly worried about it. I'm just mindful of the fact that things can always still go sideways.
Yeah.
So
I also have to, I remember just being bamboozled by that card. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, you asked me before the game, like, oh, what does that card do? I'm like,
yeah. And it's for everything across the whole turn.
Yeah. Yeah, when that hits, it's juice. I had it happen 3 times across the weekend, and I'm like, yeah, this card stays in the deck. It's a good card.
Nice. Yeah, 0 for 3 is just fine as well by itself.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't play it if it wasn't already on rate.
Not this again.
Yeah, I do this.
Yeah, I think I let the pistol hit. So there's an option to block with the hat here. Bolt and shot, no, you don't want to keep that. So that's fine. Just block out.
Yeah. So I dealt 2 damage on that turn cycle, which is okay, but if things only do that much, I'm in a bit of trouble because, yeah, I don't finish you off. And what happened in this turn just here was I drew into a hand of a blue, a red throttle, a velocity, and an octane. And what that means for me is I have 3 cards in hand. That velocity is zilch, nothing. And because you didn't attack me, it doesn't even block 3. It doesn't do anything for me.
Right.
What I do is I play the throttle, pitching the blue. Then I load the pistol with the remaining resource, and then I actually use the action on the pistol again, pitching the velocity to load the pistol. If there's no counter on the pistol, you don't actually do anything, but you are allowed to do that.
Very cool. I do that sometimes with Voltaire. You don't have to put an arrow down. You can just dump into it.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I didn't even realize you did that at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty nice. And for turn 0, just getting rid of cards is really useful as well.
Yeah, I think I may have misblocked on that turn. I think I gave you a, I'm just going to roll this back a tiny bit. So here's the red throttle. What do I give that? Oh yeah, I donate you a Frostfang here. So I could have kept, I was not expecting to be able to keep 2 cards, but that was an option for me. I could have kept the Frostfang and the Winter's Grasp to play out the Frostfang. Would have got me a card and the last pip off your chest. Nah, probably not worth it.
It's hard to say.
Sweet. This is another mistake. Don't shoot the emissary, Digl.
Yeah. Yeah. My turn was actually like not that good because I had my Octane in Arsenal and I drew into some fairly expensive attacks with only 1 blue. And on your Octane turn, you want a lot of like resources remaining afterwards to shoot pistol. So what I do here is I use Crown to dump, I think it's a red courier, because that's one of the lowest damage attacks and most expensive at the same time. So I think I dump that to the bottom and draw a blue. And from that point on, I'm just like, you're dead this turn. I just know what's happening.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty silly. This is definitely Game 14 quality players. And like also from my side, like I'm not gonna chip you down with 1 endless arrow from 4 life. My pivot turn is gonna be off a 3 of a kind, and I need the tunic counter. So this was a little bit too cute. I think I was just excited to play a card, and I think I remarked about this at the event. I was like, yeah, I get to do something because I was just blocked out for 3 turns in a row. But yeah, it's definitely helped you smooth that out quite a lot.
Yeah.
All these dash attacks are just so strong.
Yeah. The funny thing is here, I actually have you like dead to rights at this point because I have 3 action points remaining. I've got 2 cards in hand. You've got you've still got 1 card in hand, I believe. And you're at 4. So all I need to do is pitch what I've got to shoot you 4 times using up the Achilles, and that's like take a card with Horizon, and then 2 more come through, which is exact lethal. And what I end up doing is just like, oh yeah, I've got Spark. I'll search for a core, and sure, I do that. I lose an action point, and I draw a card. And
Were you hoping to draw something good? Did you draw the throttle off the Spark?
I don't know. So what I have in my hand is velocity and throttle, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I drew the velocity. So I had you dead to rights in like multiple different ways, and I just didn't. And I'm like, okay, I can still win here by Foundrying with the velocity and then unboost the throttle because it's exact lethal. But like I had that much earlier in the turn, and I'm just like, yeah, I'll search for core. Why not?
Yeah. Just flexing at this point.
Yeah.
Amazing. And like, yeah, congratulations again. Like
Yeah.
such a sterling run.
I mean, you played like really well. I think you said you hadn't won an armory before this, and then you just came second at a calling. I'm just like, that's incredible. Like,
It's a bit nuts, eh? Like,
yeah, it was just a really good weekend. Great to meet everyone. Great to meet you. Like, I sat across from you, and I'm like, I know this guy's like a really cool guy. I just know.
oh.
And it was same.
Meanwhile, I'm like, I can't read his poker face. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
No, I mean, honestly, likewise. It was when we finished this game and we shook hands. Yeah, it was a weird like moment of kinship where I just saw this other person who was just completely drenched in Oldham blood as well, and just like exhausted for such long games, and like we'd ended up in this final and just chuffed to not be playing another Oldham.
Yeah, I really was. Even though Lexi's probably one of my toughest, but it's so much less grueling than what Oldham is.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like I could not go another one of those and play perfectly. Like I just could not.
Yeah. But no, it's such a great tournament. And honestly, like I was totally, everyone says this when they lose, but I was totally stoked that you won it. Because when I saw you, I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever seen anyone that is this chuffed. You're over the moon, like visibly really excited.
Yeah. No, I was like head in hands, like crying because I'm like, what the hell I've got here.
So good. So good. Congrats, bro.
Yeah, thanks.
Hope you guys enjoyed that commentary. Big thanks to Digl for coming on the channel today. Be sure to check out his channel and the rematch that'll be going up on it soon. If you're interested in the deck Sam was playing in this video to win the calling in Auckland, check out our previous video where he provides a comprehensive deck guide to it. As of time of recording, it's just under a week before Sam flies out to Baltimore to compete in the Pro Tour, so if you see him there, be sure to say hi. Look forward to the future content we'll be creating, and we'll see you in the next one.